All right, hey everyone, this is Ash. Welcome back to the King's Speech. Apologize for having taken so long to kind of get this out and being a little bit tardy with the channel update stuff, but having gone back to work in January, it's been sort of a roller coaster so far, so it's taken me a little bit of time to kind of get back into the groove and adjust and everything else. And it's a little bit of a hard time right now because it's kind of peak depression season and also peak busy season at work for me. So the kind of conflux of those two events has just been kind of draining, taken all together. But yeah, I think I'll manage to get through it and hopefully kind of power through. Once again, I want to say I appreciate everyone that has come in to kind of check on me and see how I'm doing. I really have appreciated that, especially Matthew Bergeron. I want to say, who's been really good on that end. Shout outs to him for all the support and everything else he's done. So before we dive into Alita, just a quick note I want to say as well. So I want to give another shout out to Matt who sent me KoFi donations so I can eventually get around to buying the Battle Angel Alita Last Order volumes. So if anyone else wants to kick in a donation to help me buy the volumes so I can get around to reading Battle Angel Alita Last Order sometime in the next few months, that would be really great. And I really appreciate that. So I'll drop my KoFi link in the description below for this video if anyone feels like dropping one in there. But without further ado, I think it has been a month since we dove into it. Let's get back into Battle Angel Alita with Chapter 45, 1,000 Faces of Madness. So we pick up where we left off last time with Chaos having walked into the underground bunker and seeing this merry-go-round carousel and just this absolutely bonkers design of what looks like some kind of carnival with this demented looking laughing sun and this statue of like these flying little cupids, one holding a bow and arrow, one holding a torch. He's going yeah as they're floating around this giant tower, and Chaos is just looking around in complete surprise. And someone goes, "I'm glad you've come, Chaos. I'm so happy to see you again, my son." Oh, and then up on high, you see the smug face of that demented motherfucker, Destiny Nova, with his little clown frill thing around his neck. And Chaos looks at him and goes, "Father." And we go back to Alita, who wakes up with a as she gets buzzed with some electricity with a gick. And you see Bigot Eisenberg with his finger just hovering over the shock button as he goes, "Are you awake, A1? The test is concluded. Continue your mission to apprehend Nova." And you see Alita kind of taking stock of her battle that she just finished with A1's beheaded corpse nearby. So she's looking around, she sees, their arms have been chopped off, and she sees the end portion of her legs off to the side. And she sees her blade nearby. And then Big calls out again, "What's the matter? On your feet!" And Alita's just like, "Kill me. You took everything from me. How does that make you feel, Director? I've had enough of all of this." And Bigot's like, "Do you really want to say that? Miss Collins was let go because she saved your life." Alita's like, "Lou did what?" And she thinks back to when she elbowed A1 in the midsection. And she goes, "Oh, so that's why the replica stopped for a moment. She did that for me." And Bigot goes, "This is your final mission, A1. Once it is complete, you will be removed from Tuned and allowed to retire." That motherfucker is lying out his ass. They're gonna kill her once she's done. There's no way in hell that's true. Alita has this, just this hopeful expression on her face as she's like, I'll be free? And she thinks back to Figure 4 telling her, that's a promise. And she's like, oh yeah, I have a deal with Figure 4 to fulfill. And she closes her eyes and takes a moment to compose herself. And she goes, I'm not all alone again. Not yet. And she picks up the blade and she uses it like a little crutch staff. She makes her way over to the bike. And she goes, I have to fight. On the next page, you see a whoop as Chaos parts his little shirt collar to show the Den symbol was implanted in there. And he goes, I know that my alternate personality, the one called Den, controls that slave unit through this device, and that's how he's leading this rebellion. And you were the one who embedded this hateful thing in my chest. Even Den himself is just a monster that you created by implanting him in my mind, isn't he? You used your own son as a human experiment. And you see Destiny going, my son. It is true that I was the one who utilized that slave unit through quantum entanglement with the EPR transmitter, unbeknownst to you. But your heart is the crucible that created Den. And you see on the next page, Den back in the saddle in his centaur form is just galloping down the road, spear held behind him. And you see, yeah, as he goes and he just takes down the Factory Defense 379 tank with the giant kaboom. And he leaps over, hoisting the spear over his head, but like, onward! His force is like, yeah! And you have Koyomi just manning this giant machine gun on one of the tanks, just having the time of her life. And she's like, yeah, kill them all! And you see Destiny continuing. You see, Den's persona and actions are all the release of those emotions that you suppressed, Chaos. What the fuck, man? Ooh. Then you see on the merry-go-round, one of the horses letting out a as it breaks itself free from its little post and takes off. And you see blood just spurting from its underside where it broke off the little pole. You see Chaos just staring in shock as the horse just kind of clops slowly over and falls over with the dump. Ugh. Destiny is one sick fuck. And you see Destiny coming out from behind the merry-go-round as Chaos goes over to the horse and is just staring in shock at it. Destiny goes, a foolish horse. If it stayed on the merry-go-round, it wouldn't have died. And Chaos just looks back at him as you see Destiny coming out, eating his flan, and going, this is a lesson, Chaos. And Chaos goes, I disagree. This horse died taking its last steps as it desired. Destiny's like, aha, that's something the old you would never have said. And you see Chaos getting ready to battle as he bites the cloth, wrapping his blade in his mouth, and he starts unraveling it. And he goes, I do not take your words at face value any longer, Father. And he goes, psychometry. And he takes out the sword, and he goes in for the double-handed swing, and he goes, I now sever your rule over me. And you see a ting as he cuts straight through Destiny and bisects him in half. And you see a crash as these glass shards break around him. Chaos is staring in confusion. He's like, a mirror? When? And you see a bunch of mirrors surrounding Chaos with Destiny just laughing his head off in all of them. Going, Kya! Actually, Chaos, I think I'd like you to carry on my research. Your psychometry is capable of inheriting the entire breadth of my knowledge. When I was a child, I admired you more. That's Chaos going. When I was a child, I admired you more than anyone in the world. You once told me my goal is to cure humanity of all ills. But what about now? You're nothing but a madman. And the next panel, you see just absolute darkness as chaos starts to fall. You see him watching in shock as he lands on this gigantic looking brain. You see this splash as all these fluids just go flying. And he's like, what is this? And he's like, ugh. He's trying to throw out all the fluids he just got into his mouth. And he's like, calm down, Chaos. This is an illusion. If I give in to fear, it will only sink me deeper into his trap. You see on the page just a sea of brains laid out before Chaos. So he closes his eyes and he's just sweating and sickly and pale. And when he opens them again, he looks behind him in shock and fear as Destiny just puts his hand on his face and goes, "The world is not divided between sanity and insanity, son. There are merely 1,000 faces of madness. All mental states are just a different face on the surface of madness. And beyond the limits at the extremes of self-actualization, there's a plane of freedom. And I want you to understand its glory, my son." And he snags Chaos's wrist. And you see that he's strapped him to a gurney. And you see in front of him someone's decapitated head with like all the breathing tubes and all these apparatuses hooked up to it. And you see Chaos just go, "No, stop!" And Destiny just grabs his shaking hand and just slams it straight down into the brain. And he goes, "Lesson 1. And you see a glorp. And you see the guy's brain just going in shock as Chaos slams his hand into there. Chaos like, ah! And you see Destiny just kind of sinking his hand around in there. And he goes, "What's important is not to think, but to feel." He goes, "Lesson 2. Like, what are we? What is the meaning of life? Where are we going? What should we seek? Why are we here? You must constantly ponder the ultimate questions to their very limits." And you can see as he's doing this, Destiny's just getting more and more unhinged. And Chaos is like, "I'm terrified. I should have known I wasn't a match for him. Alita." And the next page, you see a grun. As you see Alita stopped outside the entrance to the Granite Inn. And you see her talk as she's fashioned herself a little artificial peg leg to replace her missing one. And you go on to chapter 46, War Chronicle. On that same day, just before Chaos fell in defeat to his father Nova, the blistering 5-year war between Barjack and Zalem was reaching its climax. And you see a chug-chug as you see this train with carrying the 2 enormous, phallic-looking containers with a little radiation danger symbol on it. And you see the anti-Zalem weapon 80-centimeter railway gun hang. Length 45 meters, width 12 meters, height 14.5 meters. Weight 1,400 tons, excluding the locomotive and car. You see Barjack's troops just all over next to the cannon, and you see tanks and everything just pulling alongside the side as a convoy. And you see, "Oh man, this is one gonzo gun you've built." And you have one of the soldiers calling out, "Hey reporter, make those photos look good, okay? This is the greatest Barjack will ever look." The reporter's like, I know. And you see Koyomi off in the side in the car, riding in the car next to a little machine gun, going, "Hey Buick, take a photo of me too." And he's like, "Sure thing, Koyomi." He's like, "Oh, you're such a darling." And then Koyomi's just furious, just hanging out onto the edge of the little tank. And Koyomi's just picking up his ears, like, "Come on, Fury, strike a pose." On the next page, you see her just doing a peace symbol, and she's smiling next to Fury with the head. And Buick goes, "Something about today really reminds me of the distant past. My life changed significantly after Barjack captured me 3 years ago." And you see 3 years ago, you see Buick kneeling next to this flaming car as these 2 soldiers come up. And they go, "Is it true that you're a reporter back in the scrapyard? They got a gun into his mouth, and he was like, He goes, we might be able to use him for propaganda. And you see him going, I became a VIP prisoner of Barjack and was tasked with keeping a record of their battle. So you see some of Barjack's soldiers just posing in front of the giant little missile tank thing they've got. And Buick goes, things feel different with the sky overhead. It's not like living in the scrapyard where Zalem blocks everything. And you see the little bounty robots, the ones that used to give Alita their mission. They've been tied up to a bunch of posts, and Barjack soldiers just taking turns shooting at him, going, woo, this is the best, man! It's like, take it easy. And you see another one of the Barjack guys, a bald-headed guy with this chain coming out of his hair like a ponytail, going, what did you do before joining Barjack? He's like, I was like giving a finger, and he's like, I was a bandit. He's like, what do you do for fun? He's like, what do you think, dumbass? Killing people! You see the next one, he's talking to a guy that's taking inventory of all the guns, going, what are you doing with all of these guns? The guy goes, we're making copies of what we excavate from the ruins. It's harder to recreate the cartridges than the actual guns. We'll make our own originals soon. You see him talking to one of the other soldiers going, Zalem is a city of hostile invaders that came from another galaxy, from the Reticulum system. In fact. We can't forgive them. You agree with me, don't you? You have one of them going, any messages for Zalem? It's like, give me back my fields. And you have in brackets going, meaning unknown. He asks another one, are you afraid of dying? The guy goes, I am. But Chief Den said that my death wouldn't be in vain. You have him going up to Den next and going, what kind of place will you build after Zalem's gone? Okay, that's actually a pretty boss line. And Den's like, a land where birds can fly. And you see Buick thinking, I'll never forget the amazement I felt when I saw the hanging railway gun under construction at the Barjack factory. You see Barjack going, Heng. It is the name of the thunder god of a tribe of natives that once inhabited this land. You can see Buick just staring in amazement and shock as he goes, this unfathomable hunk of steel was more than just a weapon of destruction. It was a symbol of a promised future, the determination not to turn back, and the assurance of victory. And you see the soldiers going up on the platform and just writing messages on it. And he goes, numerous times I saw the soldiers leaving messages on the hang before leaving for missions. They haven't the tiniest shred of doubt that the completed hang will bring down Zalem. They die for the sake of future freedom. I was jealous of them. You see him thinking back, but one night 2 weeks ago, I saw something that made me doubt my very eyes. And he's thinking back to Den's battle with Alita in her little wedding dress. And he goes, a girl in a wedding dress who fought alone to a draw with a peerless Den. Zalem's angel of death. And Koyomi's like, who, Alita? She has that baby face, but she sure is cool, huh? Enemy or not. And she asks Buick, why do you keep asking about that? And he goes, oh, just want to meet her up close someday. And Koyomi's just giving him a knowing look, being like, oh, I get it. You're in love with her. Buick's like, that's right. I fell in love with an angel in a white dress. The flames of desire burned deep in my gut for the first time in years. What the fuck, man? This is just taking all sorts of twists that I would not see coming. I have no idea what to make of this. And you see Buick just going around, walking through this city, and he goes, in fact, the story about being a reporter in the scrapyard was a total lie. And you see him coming across this pretty blonde woman who exchanges a few words with. And as she turns her back and walks away from him, he pulls out a knife, and then you see a spray of blood. The next page, you see him taking a picture of a woman whose bloodied hand is kind of being held up with a strip of cloth. And you see on the next page, you see pictures of all these women that he's tortured and cut up and mutilated that he's taken pictures of. And he goes, I exercised poor judgment and sold a few photos from my private collection. It ended up with me as a wanted man run out of town. And you see him just starting to sweat as he goes, and now I feel those old urges, telling me to do the same to the Angel of Salem. And you see him just kind of just staring in shock as he's having this thoughts going, my God, what am I? I'm such a miserable excuse for a man, possessed by my own urges. I have no right to gather beneath this flag of lofty ideals. And you see him going, but I wish I could be something greater. And you see, what the hell? Oh boy. The next page, you see a bunch of people just hooked up to these cannons, and you have them asking, why do I want to be a cyborg missile? Because even trash like me can be useful to someone. Well, gotta go. And you see a zaboosh as this someone's just fired from a little rocket and goes taking off with a zaboosh. And you see him talking to someone else going, is it true that you stuff the brains of casualties into the Hang's cannon rounds and then fire them off? And you see this robot, man, I don't know if anyone remembers Doctor Who, in the very early seasons, like I think it was like one of the last humans, who was basically just like a stretched piece of human skin on a canvas. So you have this robotic doctor who's got the same kind of look with his just face stretched out onto the robot, going, Kiki! It's an honorable, merciful way to die, and is in accordance with their final wishes. Though their brains may die, their will lives on, until it eventually brings down Salem. On the next page, you see, rah, 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 the giant gong as they load this gigantic-looking torpedo bullet into the cannon. And you see, load! It's a groom. You see them just pushing it in, going, load complete. And you have someone hopping onto the periscope and targeting, going, distance 62,380, altitude 4,050, target Salem's shaft. And you see the little bullseye just zooming in on the top of Salem as the cannon starts slowly getting lifted up. And you see all the soldiers just starting to cheer like, rah! And you have, yes, Hangs. Like, you have Buick just taking pictures going, this moment of elation is eternal. And you have one of Den's soldiers going, we can fire at any time. Den's like, good. Let fear tremble through your spines at last, Salem. And he goes, fire! You go, fire, fire! And you see one of the soldiers just looking up in shock, and he's like, hey, what's wrong? Artillery chief? And everyone's just looking up in shock and surprise as they see what looks like a butterfly just floating down towards the cannon. And Buick's like, is that? Oh boy, and you have one of the Alita clones, number 10, just absolutely badass design, coming down with this gigantic cannon. And she goes, you cannot win this battle. Surrender. And Koyomi's like, Alita? And you can see Buick just looks like he's having a hard on. He's going, it's Salem's Angel of Death. And you see, grr. And Koyomi thinks back to Alita when she said, next time we meet, I won't hesitate to shoot. Got that? And Koyomi's like, listen, Alita, I like you and look up to you, but I've pledged my life to serve Den. And next to Koyomi, Fury's just starting to growl at the Alita clone. And Koyomi's like, what is it, Fury? And he starts growling some more, and Koyomi's like, what is he saying? That's not Alita? And you have the butterfly wings kind of going downwards to act like thrusters behind Alita number 10 as she's just straddling the giant cannon. She's just looking down with this kind of smirk at everyone else. Buick's like, why is she showing up now? Please don't toy with my heart like this. Don't intrude on this sacred moment. And you have one of the Den soldiers going, oh, whatever, just shoot her down. Yes, sir. Next page, you see with a swish as she throws herself off to the side, right as the cannon goes off with a giant poof, in a giant explosion. And you see just fighting the bullet firing off with the giant blast, with the zoom. Everyone's just like, ah, ah. And you see them watching the missile's target arc as it's flying towards it. It goes, projectiles on target, keep going. Shatter Zalem into pieces. And right before it strikes, it hits some kind of invisible force field with a giant boom and just explodes into smoke. Den's staring in shock, like, what? Like, what happened? Bullseye, right? Look, Zalem's totally unharmed. Is that possible? And he goes, load next round. And you see inside of Zalem, Bigot Eisenberg going, the filthy little landworms. Do they really think that Zalem hung defenseless? And you see one of the computer technicians going, Melchizedek has granted us 0.3 seconds use of Abaddon. And he goes, that will do. Our target, the railway gun. Confirm coordinates. Let death teach them the error of their ways. And you see scalar field weapon Abaddon. Zalem's ultra defense weapon. It is ordinarily operated by the central computer Malachi, I think. Scalar waves involve the stretching and contracting of space. Longitudinal electrogravity waves, getting tongue-tied here, discovered by Nikola Tesla and theorized by Thomas Bearden. Excuse me. By utilizing scalar waves, it can introduce energy directly into remote targets separated by space. It is physically impossible to defend against this. Supposedly, the former Soviet Union developed a weapon called the Sargent Tiger that worked on the same principle. So if anyone remembers kind of how they animated the old computer games, it looks very much like that with the net design for this system. And you see a flash, and without a hint or prior warning, the massive hanging railway gun turned into a pile of molten steel, and 6 of its explosives detonated. And you see a giant explosion as people are just sent flying back as the cannon explodes. And you see not a single person understood what happened. And one of Den's soldiers goes, Chief Den, we've lost contact with the hang. Den looks over to the side as he sees a giant kaboom. And you see just the melted remains of everything that remains of the hang, and the train capsule was on, just leaking liquid everywhere. Flag just in tatters. And you have Buick just looking completely unhinged, going, it's burning, melting, our grand hang. You have him just tears streaming down his face as he's snapping pictures. Going, it's beautiful, snap, snap. The way the hope simply dies in this image. It's almost maddeningly beautiful. He goes, yes, collapse is beauty. I tried to cling to dreams like anyone else, but I was a fool. I want to see a greater beauty now. And you see the remains of the soldiers that were left, arms blown off, and they're just melting from the heat, going, so hot, help me. You see a boom, boom, boom. You see the flying wasp robots just taking out all the survivors that are left. And you see Elite number 10 just hovering in the background, just going, ha 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 ha. And you see one of the soldiers getting out this giant Gatling gun, going, freaking monster, as he unloads on her. And she goes, solid wing. And she kind of just, she kind of shimmers out like a mirage. And you see a boom, boom, as the bullets explode on either side of her. And he's like, oh, the bullets are going sideways. And you see solid wing, one of Tune's cutting-edge tools. Like Abaddon, it works with the application of scalar electromagnetics, creating a Hutchinson effect produced through scalar wave interference. In addition to allowing for flight, it creates a barrier against small caliber gunfire. It can also destroy matter within a 20-meter radius. So she just pulls out this shit-eating grin as she aims the cannon at her, and you see a boost as his little mark appears on the soldier. The next page you see a Brack as he just explodes outwards. And you see over on the side, Fury's pulling out Koyomi by her shirt. And he's like, oof. He's like, oh, where'd the hang go? Guys? Mud monster? And you see Fury twitching as he looks over to the side and he sees the little bee robots making their way towards her. And he goes, "Rrr." And you see a blade coming out of his ear, and he leaps up and he just swings his head around to cut them all down from the sky. It was a boom, boom as 2 shots hit him, one in the leg and one in the midsection. Koyomi calls out, "Fury!" She's like, "No, Fury, you can't die, boy." And you see tears are streaming down her face. Fury just starts licking them up. He goes, "What a cute look, Koyomi." And you see off to the side, Buick, being the sick fuck he is, has got these 3 knives planted in the ground next to him as he's just taking pictures of this. Koyomi's like, "Oh!" And she sees the Alita just hovering in front of her with the cannon. And Buick's like, "I sense that even greater beauty awaits." And as he's watching this tableau, he's going, "We are just ants. A little army of ants. Live and die. Repeat again and again and again. Nothing changes. Nothing can be changed. The sun in the sky and corpses in the earth. Burned metal. The true form of this world is chaos and confusion. That is the only law. I feel as though I was having some glorious dream, but of what I can no longer remember. What lies ahead is invisible, hidden behind a veil of smoke. I do not wish to be human any longer. I am a focal lens starving for subjects, an eye of death ever devouring the moment. Shed her blood. Kill, kill!" And you see Koyomi just grabbing this giant rock and just throwing it at her. "Alita, you monster, you hideous beast!" And you see the rocks just exploding off the side of the Alita A10. And number 10's like, "Alita, do you know A1? And Koyomi's taken aback. She's like, "Huh? I knew it! That's a fake!" And Fury's just growling at her. Koyomi's like, "Who the hell are you? What happened to the real Alita?" And number 10 goes, "A1 was of no use to Tuned anymore and was fired. And by fired, I mean scrapped." And she thinks back to when Yasmin told her, "A failed plan leads to separation. Or perhaps an omen of death." And you see Grower is next to Koyomi. Fury just leaps at her. Koyomi's like, "Fury, no!" Ooh, poor boy. And you see this lady just kicks up, swings her foot up, and just kicks Fury in the face and slams him into the ground. And she just slams her foot into his head, and he falls with a yipe. And Koyomi's like, "No, don't!" And then Alita puts the cannon up to her head, and she's like, "Die." Now she's about to pull the trigger. Koyomi's just closing her eyes, and Buick's just loving this moment. He's about to have an orgasm. He goes, "Do it!" And then something pings off to the side, and she stops. And you see Buick just stepping out with his little microphone going, "Hello, Angel of Death from Salem. I'd like to do an interview with the victor now." And you see Buick be like, "Wait, what am I doing?" And he goes, "What do you typically like to do on your days off?" He goes, "Hide, you idiot. She's going to shoot you too." He goes, "I don't suppose you'd be willing to share your measurements?" And Koyomi goes, "Watch out, Buick." And you see on the next page, the lead then just brings the cannon around and fires off a shot. And you see the remnants of the car that was behind Buick just exploding with a fist. And Buick's like, "What?" And you see Fizz like, "Whoa!" It's like, "I guess I got shot." And you see this tiny hole that went right through his chest. Are his guts hanging out? What the hell, man? Alright, so it looks like when she blew that hole in him, his guts also got exploded out and are like trailing behind him like streamers. He's like, "What an honor to be shot by the Angel of Death herself! Again, again!" Alita 10's just staring in confusion at him. She's like, "Control, the ultra-speed piercing round isn't working. Switch to low-speed anti-personnel rounds." And you see the operator going, "Okay, give me a moment." And you see a whip and a chomp. Yes. Fury is not down for the count. He's leapt up and he's grabbed. He's biting down on the Alita 10's neck, and he's just biting down. And she's like, "Ah!" And Fury just hanging on, not letting go. And you see Alita 10 just starting to spin out of control. And Koyomi's like, You can do it, Fury! Destroy that stupid shitty robot from Salem!" And you see Alita 10 just goes slamming into this river of like the chemical waste that's leaking from the train. And she just sees like, ah! She starts to slowly melt. And you see Fury's also been killed by the blast, as he's also melting into it. And Koyomi's just watching, and she turns around and goes, "Did you get that, Buick? Did you see how my Fury destroyed that nasty-ass robot?" Buick's just like slumped over on the ground. He's just like, "Got it all here." Koyomi's like, "Oh, Buick." And he goes, "Take good care of this camera. It's got 200,000 photos on the drive. The entire record of Barjack's war." And you see that Koyomi's finally starting to process her grief at losing Fury. As she grabs the camera, tears start coming down her face. And she goes, "I always thought he was old and senile, but he was my true family." And you see Bigot in his death throes just starting to spit out blood, going, "You just can't understand human beings." He's like, but at least I can say the last 3 years were fun." And Koyomi's like, "Buick!" And you see 1:42 p.m. The hanged railway gun fires on Salem to no effect. 1:43 p.m. Salem's weapon Abaddon melts the hang. 1:55 p.m. Den and his troops pull back from the front line to confirm the hang's utter destruction. And you see, as Koyomi is surrounded by the rebels, she looks up, and Den and his forces have finally made it to the wreckage of the hang. And as he's looking down at it, Den goes, "Now that we've lost the means to attack Salem directly, any further battle in a large army is meaningless." And you have 2:27 p.m. Den announces the dissolution of all Barjack mobile troops over radio. They're ordered to turn guerrilla, infiltrate the scrapyard, and sabotage Salem's various factories. It was the end of the 5-year Barjack rebellion. And you see Koyomi just watching all this as all his tanks are starting to take off. And she's like, "It's over. Just like that. That's lame." And you have one of his soldiers asking, "What are you going to do, Chief Den?" And he goes, "Me? I'm not suited to clandestine operations in this body. I plan to charge straight ahead into the factory and go out in a blaze of glory." Koyomi's just like, "Take me with you, Chief Den." And he contemplates everyone. He's like, "You will die." And Koyomi just screams out, "Exactly! When I die, I'm going to go out in a moment of glory too." Oh, I really love Koyomi. I just absolutely love her. So Den just picks her up in his arms like, "Very well." And he puts her in his little throat guard area, and he starts taking off, and he goes, "And let us show Salem our final act of defiance." And Koyomi's like, "Yeah!" And on the next page, we're back to Alita as she goes, "And Kira!" And you see this little bug just taking off. And you see Inkira, one of Tune's special tools. This insectoid, the name means fire cricket device. The name means fire cricket. This insectoid device is plasmified for about 5 seconds until it's burned up. It can be used to open holes in tunnels, defend or attack at close range, and to provide ECM, which stands for electric countermeasures, for a brief period. So you see a giant whoosh right next to Alita as the Inkira burns a giant hole in the ground, And she takes a deep breath as we dive into chapter 47, Ouroboros. Alita's like, alright, let's finish this. And you see Bigot back in the monitoring going, like a gun being reloaded. Within minutes, her catecholamine balance shifted her from inconsolable misery to total battle condition. What incredible concentration. And you have catecholamines are vital mental hormones that create and affect the human mental state. It's a catch-all category that includes dopamine, which controls pleasure, noradrenaline, which controls activity and anger, and adrenaline, which creates fear. And Bigot's thinking to himself, but any mechanical person ought to be able to do it. And he goes, there is one thing I ought to tell you while you're unconscious. We crushed the Barjack Rebellion. And Alita's just absolutely expressionless. As she processes that for a minute, then goes, I see. And then with a whoosh, she dives her bike straight into the tunnel, into the hole she just created. And you see in the operating base, Destiny's going, it seems that Alita has come to defeat me at last. And you see Chaos tied up on Alita. Destiny's like, but she's a pro. She won't come in the front entrance assuming a trap. He's like, too bad, after I made that fun theme park and all. And you see him calling out to, and he goes, and now I've lost sight of her coordinates. It was Bazard. He's like, yes, master. And you see Destiny's little portly henchman guy coming up from behind going, yes, master. And Chaos like, oh, Alita, please, come and free me from this hell. And as she's riding down the tunnel, Alita's thinking, Koyomi, I hope she's all right. Now she's driving along, she's releasing more bugs from her arms, and they're taken up with a whoop, whoop, whoop. And you see Laser Bug, another tuned special weapon. It converts and relays tuned communications with lasers. This is effective as an ECCM anti-jamming tool. And Alita's like, no, she made her decision. That was her choice. And then Bigot's like, what's wrong, A1? And she's like, just a bit of smoke in the eyes, that's all. And she goes, Director, I'll have you know that Den once attempted to recruit me into Barjack. Bigot's like, it was wise of you to decline. Zalem's presence is indispensable to the surface. We represent justice in the world. Alita's like, I see. The world is so simple when seen through his eyes. Everything is either black or white. And you see a boom as this cloud of rubble just breaks out into this tunnel. And Baznard's like, Schnort, I found her, master. And he goes, and then you have, was it Bazard or was it Baznard? Is it Bazard? You see Alita just dropping out from the tunnel into this giant tunnel with all these pipes and coils waking their way through it. And Biggie goes, your mission is to take Professor Nova alive. You must not kill him. And Alita just does a shit-eating grin face and she's like, I'd love to comply, but I might just shoot him out of reflex when I see his hateful face. Because like, I'll lock down your nerves before you fire. And he's like, then it'll be a race to see who's quicker. And she's a whoosh as this gust of wind comes down a tunnel. He's like, whoa, what's this gust of wind? And she's, whoa! And I assume that's a wall of water. Because there's a wall of water just rushing towards her. So Alita's like, shit, and she turns around and starts trying to take off on the bike. She's like, crap! Bigot's such an asshole. He's just laughing like, wah! Calm down, A1! She's like, it's not funny! And as she's going towards the end of the tunnel, she sees these eyes just staring at her from the end. She goes, oh shoot! And you see a boom as the wall of water overtakes her and drops her over this little, drops her over the edge with a daboosh. And she goes underwater. She thinks back to Den telling her, you must hate Zalem just as I do. And she's thinking back on the steel-willed Den and the ever-suffering chaos. After meeting you two, I've been split between the different parts within me. Those that are hard as steel and those that are soft and sensitive. At times the two fight against each other in a way that drives me mad. Which am I? Which is the real me? You see this and a dirge as you see the water's pouring out into this tunnel. And you see all these steps along what's at the side. You see Bigot going, "You fool! You lost the traversal unit." And you see Alita's just back against the wall, gun drawn, as she's pulled herself out of the river, going, "Ha, ha, not picking up any traps. Now go." And you see a kablam as she slams this door open and jumps into this hallway. And looks around to make sure no one's coming down. And she's like, "What's that sound? Cheering? Control." Bigot's like, "I don't know. Exercise caution." Now as Alita's making her way down the hallway, she's going, "It's weird. Something is going on here." She's like, "This hallway, I remember it." And as she's heading down, she sees this light at the end of the tunnel. And you see her, "Rah, rah!" And she's back in the roller derby arena. And she goes, "It's that old smell of burnt oil and brain-numbing cheers. I know this place." And as she walks in, you see the rollerball champion Joskun going, "It's been a long time, Alita." And Alita's just completely shocked. She's like, "It's Joskun." And you see the crowd just cheering. It's like, "Showdown! It's a one-on-one duel between Emperor Joskun and Alita the Killing Angel." Alita's like, "Huh?" She looks down and she's back in her old rollerball uniform. So Joskun takes his battle stance as he goes, "Let's see how much you've grown in the last 12 years. And he rushes towards her and he puts out a fist and Alita just barely blocks. He's like, "I thought you were dead." And Joskun just makes a fist and just back fists her off to the side with a boom. And Alita goes flying into the wall. And she's like, "He's so strong. But what does all of this mean?" Joskun's like, "What's wrong? At this rate, you won't even be able to best me in an entire century." He goes, "You're conflicted." And Alita's just like, "Joskun." And she got tears streaming down her face again. And she goes, "Why did you die? There were so many things I wanted you to teach me." Joskun's like, "We have plenty of time now. Give me your best shot." Alita just smiles as she goes, "I will," and faces off against him. You see back in control, Bigot's just losing it as he goes, "What's the meaning of this? A1, come in!" And he's just tapping away on the keyboard. He goes, "Damn, all the tuned functions are frozen." And you see bzzzt, as Destiny's stupid little face comes onto the screen. And he goes, "Kya! Alita's mine now." Excuse me. Bigot's like, "Nova!" And he goes, "I hacked into her sensory system through her tuned circuit, and I've effectively put her into an electronic dream state." I knew it. And you go, and you see Alita's just hooked onto this harness. And he goes, "In the midst of her dream, she's now battling the strongest foe she'll ever face." And you have Dusty just sticking his tongue out and just rolling it back and forth, going, "I've always desired Alita's brains for use as a test subject." Kyo's like, "Ah, Alita!" And Bigot's like, "So you broke through the tuned circuit's electronic blocking mechanism just like that. Brilliantly done, Professor. If you like A1, then by all means, feel free to use her." And then Dusty stops for a moment. He's like, "What the hell?" And he goes, "You are the greatest intellect that Zalem ever created. Please, I would love for you to welcome you back to Zalem as a VIP." And you see a herp as the harness is just bringing in Alita to Dusty's lab. And Chaos like, "Alita, you have to wake up." And you see that Dusty's putting her down on an operating table. He goes, "It's impossible. Her mind is trapped in an eternal labyrinth of her own karma's making, thanks to my Ouroboros program." And he calls it Bizarre. And you see the Ouroboros is a program designed to take over the tuned system. It replaces the senses with a cleverly designed virtual reality effectively trapping them in an electronic dream. The contents of the dream are generally influenced by primitive suggestions, anxiety, battle, fear, but the specific contents are drawn from the user's memory and subconscious. And you have Bazar just running in with the tray of flan for Dusty. And he goes, "Yes, master." Dusty grabs it and goes, "My victory flan." And he just pulls out a little bite. He's like, "Yummy!" And he goes, "As to your question, I fled Zalem in pursuit of research freedom. What benefit do I stand to gain from returning now? I cannot perform a single good human experiment in Zalem. Besides, wouldn't this break that inviolable rule that anyone who touches the surface must be imprisoned? Because it's like, you're correct, of course, but this is the desire of both the Central Computer Malachi and the Ladder Council." He does go, "Ooh, Ladder, the Extraplanetary Council." He goes, "So, even Ladder has been forced to acknowledge my genius." And you see him nosh, nosh, nosh as he's just shoving flan to his mouth. He's like, "Yeah, I'm so happy." He goes, "Very well. I have little interest in Zalem, but Ladder changes the situation. I shall return." And Big is just super happy about this. He's like, "A wise choice." And he goes, "Yeah, then let us do what we can for the time being. Bazard." He's like, "Yes, master." Chaos off to the side just crying. He goes, "Oh no." He's like, "You're Alita's boss. Why would you betray her? How beastly. What about Lou?" And you see Destiny just pulling out this weird vibrating curved knife. He goes, "This is quite pathetic, Chaos. Stay quiet over there and watch me dismantle her." And you see Chaos is just closing his eyes and looking away as tears are coming streaming down his face. And he goes, "I'm sorry, Alita. There's nothing I can do, and I can't take it. I'll bite my tongue and bleed to death." You see, rah, rah, as we head back into Alita's subconscious. And you see a boom, rah, ting, chick, as Alita gets sent flying back again. Jocelyn goes, "Your key is weak. This is why you lost your replica." And Alita's getting mad as she gets back up and starts rushing towards him again. And she goes, "I did not lose." As she comes up and just knees him in the midsection. And he goes, "Very good." And Alita's thinking to herself and she's exchanging blows with Jocelyn. "I am steel and I must pierce steel. I am a cyborg." And she takes a swing at his leg. And she goes, "I've always been a being of half measures, split between being flesh and metal." And she does a flip up as she tries to slam a leg into Jocelyn's face, and he avoids it, and she flips backwards. And she goes, "All that I truly have is my Panzerkunst. That's it. Nothing more." And she goes, "Or is it?" And she winces. After she rushes forward with a "Yeah!" And she lashes out and Jocelyn blocks it with his arm. And she grabs it and vaults around to slam her knee, try to do a knee slam into his head. And Jocelyn just stops it with his hand and just blocks her. Alita's like, "He's too strong." And he just backfists her onto the ground again. And she's looking up with a face of despair and going, "I can't keep up with him. You really are the strongest man alive, Jocelyn." He goes, "On your feet, Alita. I have not mastered the ultimate level of strength. I have merely reached the pinnacle of my own limits. A human being is bound by physical limits, and battle itself is a struggle to gain as much freedom as possible within those constraints. Struggle, worry. This is the only way to find your path." Alita just contemplates that for a moment. She's like, if I stop worrying and wandering, that I'll be no different than a robot. I have to be myself. And she gets back up into her battle pose with a look of determination on her face again. And he's like, "Come, Alita." And you can see Jocelyn's arm starting to spin again. As he goes, "I shall fight you with every muscle, every nerve, every brain cell I have." And you see a whoosh as Alita goes straight towards him and Jocelyn flashes out and you see his arm starting to corkscrew. And she's like, "The Sidewinder." He's like, "Don't stop. Push into it." and you see her speeding up. She's like, I see it coming. And as it's coming by her face, she just blocks it off to the side with a crack. And you see a bing. So as his arm was coming towards her, she just slams it right here from below and blows out all the parts and just snaps his arm. So it stops spinning. Joskin's like, humph. And you see a whoosh as he launches his other fist towards Alita. And she does the exact same maneuver with the other arm. And you see his arm stops spinning. And you see a fwah as Alita brings out her blade and just slices through the arm. And you see, yeah, as she and Joskin head towards each other. And as his fist is coming towards her, she blocks it with one hand and strikes an elbow right into his midsection with the other, with a giant kaboom. And as they stop, you see smoke just pouring off his back, his arms gone flying, and lands off on the side. He's like, did I get him? It's like, ah. And you see Joskin just kind of pulling her in closer for a hug. And he goes, brilliant. You can still become so much stronger. And true strength is not measured in battle ability. It is in living with pride. Okay, I'm about to cry over Joskin's return. Oh. And he goes, as he starts to burn away, he goes, so live, Alita, and reach the heights that I could not. And you see it starting to fade out with Alita going, Joskin. And you see a zzzt and a bazap as Alita comes awake with a start, and you see Destiny's knife just heading towards her. He's like, ah! Excuse me, my throat's really dry. Because like, impossible! And Chaos like, Alita! And she's like, yeah! And you see all this energy just pouring off her. And Destiny's just taken aback by this. Is like, what incredible power! What incredible willpower! She woke from the Ouroboros all on her own. And you have Battle Angel Alita Part 8, War Chronicle End. Oh, boy. All right. So hard to believe we're almost in the endgame now at the end of Volume 4. There's only one more volume left in this original run. I don't think there's much in the way of extra content, things after that. Excuse me a minute while I take some water. My throat is incredibly dry. But I like the conclusion of at least this part of the Barjack saga. And it's interesting to kind of finally get Alita back face to face with Destiny, so I'm interested in seeing how that plays out. I love how Koyomi's just having the time of her life, where she's like, yeah, I joined a rebellion, you know, I'm gonna go blow up some shit, you know, and yeah, I'm gonna go out in a blaze of glory, and Den's just like loving her joie de vivre kind of attitude. So that was really, really enjoyable. But yeah, like I said, apart from that, I will do my best to try to keep up with regular posting over the next little while. I know I'm behind on the backlog of trying to do the Battle Angel Alita volume review videos. So I'll try to make that a priority for the next few things I do. Is I'll try to start putting those out a little bit slowly to kind of process my thoughts about the series thus far and everything else. So hopefully that'll be out sometime next week, I want to say. So once I finish recording this video, it should be out late. It's Sunday night here, late Sunday night. So hopefully it gets out relatively soon. Apart from that, I'll also try to put out a quick channel update video with talking about series and everything else I kind of mentioned at the beginning of this video about what my schedule is going to be like for the next little while. But apart from that, I hope you all enjoy the return of Battle Angel Alita to the channel. I know I'm doing a lot of read-throughs, like different read-throughs right now, and I've picked up a couple of volumes of the next other few series I'm doing. But I'll try to prioritize finishing the rest of Alita before I dive into the other series again, because we really are getting close, like I mentioned. So I kind of want to dive into it and complete at least the first part of this series. And like I mentioned, if you all would like to chip in to help me buy the last order volumes, that'd be really great. Like I mentioned, I think a couple of times before, I'm probably not going to dive into last order right away. I just want to kind of get further into the other current series I'm reading right now. And then hopefully in the next couple of months, once I'm ready to it and I collect all the last order volumes, I will dive into those. But apart from that, I hope you all enjoy the return of Alita. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, because it really does help my channel and really does mean a lot to me. And until next time, this is Ash. I will talk to you all later.